Welcome to Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to episode 6 of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, and today we'll be talking about one simple shift you can make today to increase your abundance. What do you frequently say about money? It's either magnetizing money your way or repelling it away. Let's activate your wealth consciousness in the language you're using around money. I'm so excited about this one. Before we get into today's episode, if you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. So head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. This episode is going to be great. I'm very excited about it. And also, Happy New Year. So welcome to the new year. I hope that you have been enjoying the podcast so far. I have been having such a great time doing it and hearing the feedback from y'all. It really means a lot to me. And it's just so exciting to see the different things that you are implementing into your life when it comes to your finances, as well as hearing about the takeaways you're having from each episode. And so this is another good one. And it is all about the language that you are using around money. So what you say about money in any area of your life actually matters. Okay, what you say matters because what you say is a reflection of your thoughts, which are a reflection of your beliefs, and it's all connected. All right, so do you find yourself saying things like, rich people don't care about other people, or it must be nice for that person to do whatever they want since they don't have to work for money, while at the same time, your goal is to be wealthy and have money to support your desires of time freedom to do what you want. Do you see how that can contradict itself there? So when you are talking badly about those with money, when you've made certain judgments about those who are spending their money in a particular way, and yet you want those same things that they have, right? Like that little bit of jealousy there, that's what's coming out. That is actually making it harder for money to come to you easily, my friend, okay? That is not helping you. And it's so important to get your language around money to match what it is you want to receive and what it is you want to do in your life. Something that I think about often is that, the same energy that you are putting towards judging somebody else's spending habits, towards, having certain beliefs, right, about how people with a certain amount of money, like certain level of wealth, act or, things they say, do, whatever, right? All of that energy that you're putting into that could also be put into studying and figuring out how it is that they did that. What are some moves that they made that allow them to reach that particular level, right? That's the same energy that could be used for that purpose. And, let me just keep it real with y'all. A year and a half ago, I became very intentional about what I was saying about my finances. I replaced "I can't afford" with "how can I afford it?" I'm going to say that one again for the people in the back. I replaced "I can't afford" with "how can I afford it?" then the psychology around that is that when you are thinking that you cannot afford something, you've already cut it off because you've already made a decision. So you've already cut off the possibility of being able to have it. And so, your energy, your mind, everything is like, all right, well, since that's not happening, let me focus on something else. And so it is so good to be able to switch that into giving yourself something that you can solve, right? How can I afford it? What are some things that I can do? Who can I talk to? What are some skills that I already have, right? This kind of gets your brain going in a more productive way. And it also shifts your energy into, okay, how do I bring more of this to me? And it starts to magnetize it towards you. And so I remembered what a mentor told me about only speaking what I wanted to see in my life. And so if, when I wanted to become a homeowner, it was I am becoming a homeowner. Like, I am a homeowner. What are the things that, homeowners do? And then it was also like, okay, I want to be somebody who is receiving, a certain level of income on a monthly basis. Okay, who is the person who's receiving $10,000 per month? What are some things that I can start to do to reach that level, right? And then once I did, it was exciting. It felt like, okay, like this is definitely where I'm meant to be. I felt very connected to it. It felt aligned, right? And you might have heard some things about, when it comes to visualization, when it comes to manifesting, it's you see it in your mind as a thought, as a visualization or something first before you see it in front of you and experiencing it in your reality. And that's how, when we know that something is aligned, it's really a feeling because you have already felt it before as you were visualizing it or thinking about what it would be like to have those things or reach that particular level you want to be at. And so it's the same way with this, right? And that's what we want to begin to language. We want to begin to language things that express the gratitude for what we already have. Because every time we express gratitude for something, we are essentially saying, I would like more of that. I would like to experience more of this in my life. And so that's even a good place to start with thinking like, okay, when's the last time I said I was grateful for something? And what did I say I was grateful for? And are you saying you are grateful every time you receive a certain amount of money? That's a key right there. I also want to say that it didn't mean bypassing challenges. So this isn't one of those things where I'm like, yeah, you just like say a bunch of great stuff and it just all magically happens and there's no obstacles. And it means like, don't ever think about the obstacles. It means that when I was faced with an obstacle, a challenge, I focus primarily on solutions and speaking into my abilities to resolve it. And this is a great shift that you can start to make. Instead of saying like, oh, this problem sucks. It's terrible to deal with. I'm so upset that I have to do this thing, right? Instead of kind of dwelling on that, it's all right. Well, this isn't necessarily something I may want to do right now, or like, this is definitely a challenge. And how am I equipped to handle it? And so for me, I started to realize that when I had exhausted all my options, my belief in my abilities stopped there. I was faced with asking for help, and shout out to those who also have struggled with that, because I definitely have. And a lot of that is thanks to the financial abuse I suffered, where I would be called ungrateful or not good enough if I asked for any sort of help or assistance. And so it took a lot of work to get out of that space, right? And it did become an obstacle for me. And what I love about personal development in general is how one area of growth leads to another, right? It's so much fun in that way. And instead of repeating the story of how no one wanted to help me, which is truly the talk track that started to enter into my space, when I was, starting to become intentional about what I was saying around my finances, that's one of the things that I realized. Once I got into this particular space with a challenge, that's the talk track that would happen. It was, people don't want to help me. I decided that it was time for a new story. It was time to start thinking and believing something else because that's what I wanted to be true, right? And so, cue the beginning of Lose Yourself by Eminem because my arms were definitely sweaty and I was nervous as I took a deep breath and asked for help. And not only was assistance happily given to me in this situation, I felt the weight of a generational cycle lifted from me. And if you are somebody who is, breaking generational cycles of behavior in your lineage and just like conversations that were not had before, then you probably resonate with how it just feels like a weight lifted off. And that became very apparent to me as I started to ask for assistance because I realized that that wasn't something that was happening easily, or there might have been, some trauma around that with other people in my family. And a new money story was created for me that day when I asked for help. It showed me that, the support is always there for me. And it also showed me that as I was working on what I wanted to say and how I wanted to structure my words around money and the things that I expected and wanted to see in my life, that part of what I wanted to see was that support. Part of what I wanted was to be able to ask for help easily. And so less than a year from being intentional about my language with money, I celebrated receiving the pre-approval that would lead to buying our first house. And then a few months later, I'm enjoying my most profitable quarter 4 in my business. Okay. And these are all things that are possible for you. And it really started with that small step of paying attention to what I was saying and not letting myself dwell in, some of the previous beliefs that I had around what was possible for me. A lot of times the way that you face fear is with that action, right? So even though I was nervous about asking for help in that situation, it was going for it and moving forward that really changed things for me. And that's because your language about money and people with it can also be your signal of where it's time to heal and level up in your life in the same way that was for me. And honestly, this is one of those things like my clients chuckle at me all the time because I'm quick to call out their negative statements about money on our coaching calls. And it's one of those things where like it's a big benefit of working with a coach, right? Because they're able to see some things, maybe catch those small things that you were not aware of yourself. And then that brings it into your awareness. You're able to start to, take the steps to resolve it, to make it better, all of those things. And so they always laugh at me when I'm like, you're saying that you want to be able to live off of your investments, and yet you are talking badly about people who are living off their investments. Like, girl, you can't do that. Okay. So, the one small thing can truly accelerate your abundance and elevate your wealth consciousness in working on what you're saying about money. Think about the things that you can say instead, right? The one I gave you earlier, that example of how can I afford this? That's something that you can start with. It's, if you see somebody who is in your life, even who is like making money at a level that you want to make it at, have a conversation and, ask them for some tips or just like pay attention to some of the strategies or things that they're doing, ways that they're moving in life, and see if there's something that you can learn there. Right. That is another thing that you can do. It's, anytime you are faced with a situation, even if it's like talking about your relationship with money. I know so many people who say things like, I'm not good with money. And the more you continue to say things like that, the more it becomes true. And you're just feeding into it, right? You're feeding into what you already believe there. And then you're going to start to experience some things in your life that are going to match up to that belief, right? Then all of a sudden you have, fumbled a bag that you could have invested instead, or you could have saved instead. And that all stems from that belief that you're not good with money. or that you overspend, right? Everything that we think about in this area and that we truly believe, we are going to, whether intentionally or consciously or not, we're going to go and search out for evidence to prove it correct. And so when you start to change your story about what is true for you when it comes to money, you are the person who can afford anything that you want. You are worthy of the self-care day that you want to have, right? And then that's when you can start to seek out the evidence to support that. And that is just that small thing. Does it create like instant gratification? No. And I'm very honest about that. It does not happen instantly. However, when you do it consistently over time, you start to see those results about what you are saying and just even that shift in what you start to believe when it comes to money. But it all starts with, what am I saying about it? What are my thoughts around it? How am I handling, how am I saying that I handle money? And what is the thing that somebody who does handle money do? Like, what are they doing, right? And how can I start to incorporate that into my life? Each level that you go up to in terms of finances, in terms of wealth, right? They require you to dive deeper into those belief systems that you are holding around it. And it takes some intention, and some conscious effort to get out of there. But you can, that's the biggest thing. You can definitely do it. And so, I want to repeat that, as you pay attention to your language, you are opening up the gates of abundance to yourself even wider, right? You're increasing your capacity to receive more wealth, to receive more opportunities that really support and align with your vision. You open yourself up to that and you really elevate as you start to pay attention to the words that you are saying about your life, about your money, about just everything. It's not something that happens quickly. Belief work does take some time, and it is so worth it. It is so worth it. I'm a testimony to that, as I've just said. Here's your action step for this episode. I want you to write down 10 things you normally say about money. And for any negative or judgmental statements, I want you to write an abundant reframe. And then this is a little extra credit. So if you are easily able to come up with those 10, great. And even if you're not and you need a little extra assistance, ask a friend or just somebody that's close to you, spends a lot of time with you, what they think your feelings are towards money. And ask for examples so you can be aware of those unconscious statements. Okay, so I'm excited to hear about how this little experiment goes for you and what you end up finding out in terms of the things that you say about money. Please tag me on Instagram so I can celebrate you as you have taken this step. And with that, our next couple episodes, so we have the one about how budgeting is much more than your bills. And I'm excited to tell you my home buying story coming up. So make sure you stay tuned each week with the podcast. And as I mentioned at the beginning, if you are ready to take control of your finances, and even if you are looking for that support in just having somebody to be there and hear those things that you were saying about money, if that's something that you want to start to work through with myself as your coach, you can book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey Intensive with me. You will walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. So make sure you check out that link to book your spot. And I will catch you in the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.